What happened to me shouldn't happen to anyone, but I'm glad it did. Standing at the entrance of the Crystal Palace, an upscale restaurant where chandeliers sparkled as brightly as the mounted deer's heads, I felt like an imposter in a world designed for others. When I, Eleanor Dawson, a 72-year-old black woman in simple clothes, requested a table for one, the maitre d' Thomas sneered, his disdain palpable as he told me to get lost. His laugh reverberated through the marble halls, resonating with a crowd eager to join in, their snickers echoing against my dignity. I wanted to turn away, to hide my hurt under the mantle of indifference. But something inside me refused. I stood tall, met those condescending gazes, and insisted I could pay for my meal. My voice wavered not from fear, but from an unwavering sense of self-worth. Anthony Palmer, the restaurant manager, approached spouting further disdain. Yet unbeknownst to him and his laughing patrons, I was more than just a woman in a cheap dress. As the ridicule rained down, something shifted within me. The laughter didn't crush me. It ignited a fire. Behind those lofty walls, I was Dr. Eleanor Dawson, a formidable force in finance, prepared to unveil the truth behind the gilded gates of the Crystal Palace. The next day, I'd step back inside, not as the woman they painted me to be, but as the architect of their downfall. In that moment, I knew I would reclaim my dignity and dismantle the very walls that sought to belittle anyone who dared to be different. Eleanor Dawson stood at the entrance of the Crystal Palace, her striking gaze sweeping over the opulent setting. "Table for one, please," she said, her voice steady. The maitre d' Thomas sneered, arms crossed. "In those clothes? This isn't a soup kitchen, madam. You'd be better off at a shelter," he mocked, laughter bubbling from the nearby patrons. Eleanor's heart raced, but her composure held firm. "I assure you I can pay for a meal here. I just want a seat." Before Thomas could respond, Anthony Palmer, the restaurant manager, swaggered over, his attitude radiating entitlement. "We're fully booked," he declared, dismissively tapping the reservation book. "And you're violating our dress code. You really should leave." "Excuse me?" Eleanor's voice softened, yet hardened with unyielding dignity. "You don't know who I am." Palmer smirked, turning to the amused onlookers. "We don't need a lecture on etiquette from someone dressed like that. You'll need to get lost, lady." Gasps echoed from the crowd as Eleanor remained resolute, yet a deep humiliation pooled within her. The laughter ricocheted off the walls, and the waitress Rebecca, a mere spectator, looked torn, wishing to stand up but too intimidated to act. "Get your hands off me," Eleanor commanded as Thomas approached, hands ready to eject her. The thrill of their mockery echoed in her ears, but she held her head high. Who did they think they were? As she walked out, the echoes of laughter followed her like shadows, oblivious to the storm brewing behind her composed exterior. Eleanor Dawson sat alone at the bar, her fingers tracing the rim of a crystal glass filled with water. The rich aroma of gourmet dishes wafted around her, a stark contrast to the snobbish laughter echoing from the dining area. She adjusted her simple cardigan, feeling the weight of their judgment in every sneer thrown her way. Moments earlier, Thomas, the maitre d', had dismissed her with an expression that blended disdain and amusement, suggesting she seek a meal at a shelter instead of this upscale establishment. "Really?" she muttered under her breath, her steady gaze fixed on the lavish chandelier above. The more he mocked her, the more her heart raced, a simmering frustration deep within her chest. Across the room, she noticed Anthony Palmer casually chatting with an influential couple, laughter spilling from their lips like champagne bubbles. No one intervened. The air thickened with complicity. The ridicule was unbearable, pricking her resolve. She clenched her fists, each laugh cutting deeper, carving her silent suffering into something more potent. Eleanor took a deep breath, allowing the humiliation to crystallize into determination. Then a sudden realization struck her. Her identity was not just of a simple woman brushed aside. She was Dr. Eleanor Dawson, a name with influence, a name that would not be forgotten. Tomorrow she would walk back into the Crystal Palace, not as a victim, but as a force ready to dismantle the very culture that had scorned her. Eleanor stood tall, her heart steady despite the weight of ridicule hanging in the air. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice ringing with quiet resolve. The laughter of the patrons faded momentarily as they turned to face her. "I believe you misjudged me. I can pay for my own meal, thank you very much." Thomas smirked, ready to dismiss her again, but Eleanor held his gaze unflinchingly. "Where I choose to dine is not your concern. I just need a table." Her words emerged softly, yet firmly, and she felt a current of strength surging within her. From the back, Rebecca watched, her hands trembling with nervous energy. She appreciated Eleanor's poise, the way she commanded respect simply by insisting on it. Maybe I can help," she whispered to herself as she stepped closer, unsure but drawn to Eleanor's determination. When Palmer arrived, Eleanor squared her shoulders, confronting him without losing a beat. "I demand to be treated with dignity. Your disdain for my appearance does not define my worth." The ball was now in his court. He could see the fortitude in her eyes, the unmistakable clarity of purpose. Tile as the room buzzed with murmurs, Eleanor caught glimpses of nods from nearby tables, a subtle acknowledgement of her courage. Though her voice was calm, she could feel the tremors of change beginning to stir around her. "I will not allow this behavior to continue," she asserted, her words a promise, both to herself and the world that had tried to silence her. Later that night, Eleanor sat in her sleek apartment reviewing her papers. "Dr. Eleanor Dawson," she repeated to herself, tasting the name anew. She knew now that she was not just reclaiming her place, but sparking a transformation beyond herself. The Crystal Palace would know her legacy, and it would never be the same. Eleanor Dawson stood just outside the Crystal Palace, the opulent restaurant casting long shadows against her simple dress. Yet the dismissive tone of the maitre d', Thomas, echoed painfully in her silence. "You don't belong here." With every mocking laugh from the nearby patrons, a knot tightened in her chest, but she held her head high, insisting on her right to a table. Days later, uncertainty turned to determination as she sat in her luxurious apartment, digesting the documents that revealed her identity as Dr. Eleanor Dawson, a force within the financial world, in stark contrast to their prejudices. With a plan set in motion, she arrived at the Crystal Palace to witness her oppressor, Anthony Palmer, leading a meeting of investors, oblivious to her approach. As she stepped forward, the room fell silent. The confident glances exchanged by investors shifted, the atmosphere thick with tension, as Eleanor presented evidence that exposed Palmer's misdeeds. Her composed demeanor starkly contrasted the growing realization on Palmer's face. He was unmasking himself in front of those he sought to impress. "Your catering to exclusivity is more than just a restaurant flaw," Eleanor articulated, her voice unwavering. "It's a stain on your character." As she laid out evidence of his theft and refusal to create opportunities for his staff, gasps rippled through the room. The weight of her words hung palpable in the air, and applause began, a gentle crescendo of recognition for her truth. By the end of the meeting, the walls that once confined the Crystal Palace began to crack. Palmer was sidelined, his authority evaporating amidst the mounting proof against him. Eleanor's silent triumph radiated from her, while Palmer shrank into himself, humiliation painted on his face, as he was escorted from the building. Take building the restaurant into Dawson's, Eleanor promised to uplift those who had been sidelined, leaving a legacy of empowerment that echoed justice. A reminder that dignity prevails, and every laugh at someone else's expense can become a moment of recognition if we choose to stand steadfastly in our truth. As I sat at the quaint kitchen table, reflecting on the events of that fateful night, I couldn't help but feel an overwhelming mix of emotions. The Crystal Palace had stood as a symbol of exclusivity, a fortress of elitism, where I, Eleanor Dawson, was told to get lost. But I turned that mockery into my fuel. I've spent a lifetime fighting for justice, and the experience ignited something within me. A reminder that dignity knows no dress code or social status. The transformation of that place, my place now, into Dawson's, was more than just revenge. It was a testament to the strength found in vulnerability and resilience. I didn't just expose a corrupt man, I laid bare the biases woven deeply into the very fabric of society. This journey has left me pondering the essence of dignity and respect. Was my response too extreme? Was I justified in my actions? Have you ever felt the sting of being dismissed or looked down upon? I invite you to share your stories, your thoughts on power and justice, and reflect on how we can uplift rather than belittle one another. Let's keep the conversation going.